What is your process for ghostwriting, and what kinds of ghostwriting do you specialize in?
Well, I'll start with what kinds first, because that does the type influences a little bit of the how. Because I work primarily with executives, the suite or sort of the ecosystem of what I work on are speeches, keynotes, blog posts, articles, books, ebooks, handbooks, all the books. And then often, once I've been working with a client for a period of time, I also get privy to sort of a level of like internal communications or executive communications that they decide they want to have sort of more like just develop in a more credible, robust way. So that could include, presentations for town halls, internal newsletters that CEOs might be, emailing out to their either C-suite or leadership team or sometimes all employees. So it kind of can bridge internal comms and sort of executive comms and then more public facing. And I also do some scripting and prepping for podcasts or video sort of interviews, public, live interviews, if they have TV engagements, all of that. So in some ways, my role working with executives is, yes, ghostwriting. It's putting words to paper, but it's also, metaphorical paper these days, but it's also being a thought partner. It's saying, it's really working with them on developing clarity and consistency and kind of challenging them to make sure they're going far enough or going in the right direction, thinking about opportunities, but also risks. And so that all comes into play with all of that, with all of the types of content. And then, of course, the words. So the process that, for each client can be different. I'd say, I really work with clients to figure out how they work. I sort of plug into their natural way of expressing themselves. I'd say more than not, my clients have either no time, they have the skill for writing, but no time to write, or don't have a skill for writing, but have great ideas. So depending on the path, whether they love to write, but just don't have the time or not, I work with them a little differently. It comes down to a lot of conversations, a lot of voice memos back and forth, a lot of, I work asynchronously. So because everyone's busy, not everyone can jump on a 2-hour Zoom call for me to interview them about a chapter of a book. So I assign homeworks and prompts, and then we kind of work back and forth to fine tune whatever it is that deliverable is. Voice memos have become probably the primary way that my clients communicate their ideas. I guess verbal is just a more natural, oftentimes it is more natural for people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that because, is that a logistic thing where people just squeeze it into the spare moments that they have, or is it more natural because they can do it when they're alone and they don't feel like they have these awkward silences while somebody kind of sits there and waits for them to talk while they're thinking? Or why does that become the primary medium?
I think there's the ability for it to be asynchronous is just convenient, but I think verbalizing over, say, responding to an email or writing out their thoughts, there's just fewer obstacles. I mean, people get, the writer's block, even sometimes writing a short email to a client, or what have you. So yeah. I think it's less that it's discomfort with me sitting sort of across from them on a Zoom call or a recording, and more that we have great ideas and all times of the day, as we know, like the shower, the infamous, like, great idea in the shower or out for a walk. And that's so I get a voice memo from a client that's like, oh, I think I nailed the final point on that one speech. I think this is going to, blah, 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 blah. And they kind of tell me about it. And then I can say, oh, okay, so then I can work in that theme. I'll introduce it a little earlier. We can kind of, work on it from there. So it's just become like a very easy back and forth. And again, I just don't think people want to sit for a couple hours and work on one thing, even though I do, which is why I take the brunt of the sitting and concentrating on the production work. That's like my ideal afternoon is, sitting and going heads down and writing something.